We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello everyone and welcome to the award-winning Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. With Kim on the move and playing in the mud by the looks of the pictures I've seen online. Tonight I'm once again joined by my joint host Julie Chiariello, the owner of Skunk Magazine as well as the editor of it. And she has a special guest that I can't wait to hear more about. But as always, chat time with Julie. We're just going to have a quick chat, right Julie?
Yes, it's going to be a quick one tonight, Al, because we have a very special woman, very deeply inspiring woman in the global cannabis movement tonight with us. And she doesn't have much time. She's a busy lady, and so I want to spend time with her.
Yeah, that's right.
But I'm very, very happy to... this has been quite a marathon here to do all month long with Kim Cooper being gone. Kim, I miss you. I can't handle this. It's heavy. This load. Certainly, my guests haven't been heavy loads, and nor have you, Al. But just it's a lot of work that goes into doing a weekly show. So I have to say, I'm looking forward to Kim returning next week and having a week off. But our guest tonight is a kindred spirit, Al.
Yes, she is. That's right. From the information that you sent to me, like I said, I can't wait to hear more about her.
Oh. Yeah, I want to read her little bio that she sent over to me because it's not little, her journey and her incredible adventure as a woman in the world. Born and raised in San Francisco, Nikki Lastreto is a grown-up flower child with a passion for cannabis and spirituality. After a decade as a journalist in the city, she moved to Asia for several years, primarily India, where she studied the art of creating sacred spaces. She returned to California, settling in Mendocino County, where she established a sanctuary on the farm that is also home to Swami Select brand cannabis flowers. Nikki is a founder and CEO of Swami Select, a respected cannabis journalist and a flower judge at the prestigious Emerald Cup since it began in 2003. As a strong voice for women, she shapes the industry, educating consumers, cultivators, and politicians about the value of pure cannabis cultivated using organic methods. And without further ado, I want to invite Nikki on. Welcome, Nikki. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you both of you, Julie and Al. It's a joy to be here. Always fun to talk with you, no matter what.
Thank you, Nikki, for coming on and talking to us, and as well as our listeners. And as I said, I'm interested in hearing the story. It sounds very interesting. Traveled around the world. I'm sure there's lots of things that you can tell us about.
Well, I feel blessed.
And I want to start.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted, I was really born in the right place at the right time. So I've been blessed since the day I was born. I've always felt that, and I don't take any of it for granted. Right. But, being born in San Francisco, California in 1955 meant that I was the prime age to be a flower child in the city during the 60s. The only regret is I couldn't exactly run away from home because I lived there already. But it was a great place to grow up. And as you can imagine, I could just walk up to Golden Gate Park and the Grateful Dead or the Jefferson Airplane and all of these incredible bands playing every weekend right out there. And it was just an amazing way to grow up. So I learned about cannabis very, very quickly being part of that culture in San Francisco. It was really the hotbed of counterculture and experimental drug use, really. And so I did smoke my first weed when I was 14, and that was a joy. Immediately knew I was in love with it, and did move on to psychedelics pretty quickly, actually, as well. And back in those days, psychedelics were a lot stronger than they are today, actually. The average dose was about 500 mics. And I have to say, I know it's made me the woman I am today, because just having those experiences at such a young age, not saying it's good for everybody at that young age, but for myself, it worked. And it really expanded my mind. And I was able to hang out with all of these amazing, cool hippies. They were generally older than me, but they, taught me about things of like India. I wouldn't have known anything about it, but everything was cool and groovy, and pictures of Ganesh and Shiva everywhere. And it was quite an education that I made sure that I got as a young child. And I did start selling weed pretty young too. I have to admit, I guess there's very many years of statute of limitations in between me here, so I can talk about this now. And I probably really. We used to worry about those things, but now that we're legal, I guess we don't have to. I don't know. I probably sold my first weed when I was about 15, and just kind of kept doing it at first, really just so that I could have my own. But I did kind of always have a business mind, as I got from my dad, I guess, and I enjoyed doing that because it meant everybody would come over to my place, and I would be the one that would have it. And I love a party. I just love a good party. It's my passion to put on events and be together with everybody having a good time. So cannabis certainly brought us together, and it still continues to bring us together. And I still continue to put on events and parties around it, and whatever I can to share the knowledge and break the stigma. As you both know, that's such an important thing we're all working on here. Julie's doing an incredible job with the Green Renaissance at Skunk, and we so appreciate that. And just, going forward in life. And should I just keep going here? I mean, I got quite a story. I could just...
No, I want to jump in, but for our listeners to know that we had a little bit of a technical difficulty here, and it seems to be that there's a delay. So I don't want to be rude and interrupt your thoughts, Nikki, but just be forewarned, there seems to be a bit of a delay. When I jump in to ask a question, it's coming a little bit like maybe 30 seconds or 20 seconds later. So really, I'm sorry about that. But I did want to go back because you actually jumped in right with the question that I wanted to begin with. It's just what that time really meant in the city. And what it really birthed, and what a special time that was, with merging consciousness with the world. And you mentioned it, the Renaissance. But back then, you guys were at the beginning of something that I think was inspired by counterculture heroes like Dylan and the Beats. Dylan was inspired by the Beats, and now we're inspired by you guys and what happened there. But, I mean, a lot of people may not know or not connect the dots that what was happening in Haight then carried up to the Emerald Triangle, with many of the hippies leaving the city and starting what we now know as the modern cannabis industry with that back to earth, back to land movement. But can you take us back, because you did such a wonderful job describing it, but take us into it even more about what that was like to be, waking up in consciousness at that time and knowing that the systems didn't support it as well. And now what has that evolution been like, as part of, you guys were part of that back to land migration and coming back up and onto the land and learning to grow.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I was, born and raised in San Francisco, so I really was a city girl to start off with. And I was actually very spiritual and religious as a child. When I was younger, I was, I went to Catholic school, and I was really fascinated by all the beautiful music in the old days before it all changed, and the mystery, the magic. That's what I loved about it. And then that all started to change in the mid 60s or so. And that's about when I started noticing these hippies on the streets of San Francisco. And it just opened up my eyes. And the first thing I thought was, they look so free. They look so happy. You know, they're not sticking to these constraints that society has put upon my sisters and my mother and so many others before me. And I just said, I want to be like that. And I knew that from the moment I saw them. And it was incredible in those days, is all I can say. Everyone was so free and so happy. And you know, I was hanging out in communes with a bunch of hippies, and, you know, my eyes were big as saucers because I was like the youngest kid there quite often, and just soaking it all in with a curiosity that was unmatched. And I took a lot of that, what I learned there. I realized, okay, I'm going to expand this. And I watched myself. I actually consciously was, you know, probably with the help of psychedelics and cannabis as well, I was able to really tune in and watch my own growth as I began to understand I can be free too. This is how I can do it, yet be respectful and loving and compassionate, and to be a person. I mean, there were some scary parts about it, not for me personally, but you know, at a certain point, Haight Street around 1968 especially really started going towards bad drugs, and people were getting a little creepier. And actually, at that point, I moved down to hanging out in the North Beach part of town, which is the old Italian part of town, and also where the Beat Poets used to be. And that's where all of the hippie artists ended up going when Haight Street started to get a little grungy there. So that's actually where I met Swami. He was known as William then in 1969. And I met him along with a whole bunch of other hippies and in these communes there, and we just all kind of stayed friends in that group because I just thought they were the most incredible people I'd ever met. And life progressed, and with it I became more and more curious about the rest of the world. So as soon as I could, after I went for 2 years to college, where I kind of joke, I claimed to study art in college, but I really studied business because I became the dormitory dealer, because I went to college at San Francisco State but lived in a dorm. And I was, of course, the only person that knew where to score in San Francisco because I was born and raised there. So it was a perfect setup for a great business. And that's where I really progressed into a more of a dealing sort of background and really got into it and enjoyed it. But then as soon as I got out, I stuck around the city for a while, but I knew I had to move. I just really was so curious about the world. And it was finally when I was 21 that I took off, and with a boyfriend at the time, we went overland from San Francisco. The entire thing was overland to India and to Sri Lanka. Everything was, either a bus or a boat or a train or a bullock cart or walking or hitchhiking or whatever we could do. And that's how we went around the world.
Wow.
And by the time I got to Sri Lanka, we did have to take an airplane to Thailand at that point. That was kind of the end of the road there. But I was, again, so blessed at the timing that I did that. I'm so glad I did that now, because I was in Afghanistan when it was still a king, and it was no question, hands down, the best hashish in the world. Unbelievable. Oh, my God. And so I got to study a lot about cannabis along the way. I was obviously in Europe and all of that too, but it was in Afghanistan that I really learned about hashish. And then went through Iran, which still had the Shah, and Pakistan, into India, and ended up spending, a good 8 months in India at that point, which just blew my mind, totally blew my mind. And part of what really got me about it was that, I'd watched the Catholic Church that I really had known and loved as a child. I'd watched it transform into hootenannies, and I don't know. I mean, nothing against guitars in church, but I really liked it when it had the magic and the mystery and the incense and the guy, the priest talking in Latin and all of that. And when I went into my first Hindu temple in India, boom, I was right back there again, because it was the magic and the mystery again and the incense. It was all right there. And I knew immediately not only had I had many lifetimes in this country, but it was time for me to really understand India. And so I had a very precious time there. And finally, at a certain point, I did start to run out of money. Granted, this was 1977 into 78. I was gone a little over a year, and I spent $2,500 total for the entire year for everything. That was all of my transportation. Oh, can you still hear me, or is the connection off?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Hello?
$2,500 bucks.
Absolutely amazing.
Oh, no.
I can hear her. Hello?
Yep, I can hear you too.
Yeah, we can hear you,
Can you
Nikki.
hear us?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, Nikki. Oh, no. How about...
Nikki, can you hear us?
I'm going to go for a break.
Hello?
Julie, I'll just go for the break, and then I'll try to get Nikki back in. It shows that she's here. She hasn't dropped off the call or anything yet, but obviously she's not hearing us.
Okay, sounds great. Let's all dream of the Afghani hash, shall we?
Yes.
And we'll come back.
Yeah, exactly. Off the break we go. Julie and I hope to continue our conversation with Nikki Lastreto of Swami Select. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Once again, People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Check them out.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888. And grow on with CP.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Hey, we are back and we are live here at paceradio.net. Julie and I are here, and we have been trying for the last for the last 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. We have been trying to get a hold of our guest tonight, Nikki Lastreto, and unfortunately, Julie, as she says, she's in the boonies, and it keeps going to the answer machine.
Okay. Well, we can keep on. I'd love to just touch on Nikki a bit more. I was having difficulties myself with my reception, so my questions were coming in a little bit late. But, Nikki really is just an incredible woman in the industry and has been always speaking about where consciousness and commerce and working with our plant allies merge. That's really what I think is just so valuable in her work. And I hope that we can get her back so we can spend some more time with her tonight.
I think we have her. I think we do. Nikki, are you there?
You got I am back. I have no idea what cosmic forces did that, but I am back here. So sorry about that. I have no idea what happened there. And let's see, where was I? I was quite in the story of my life. I was going down this rabbit hole here.
Afghani hash.
I told our listeners.
Go ahead.
I told our listeners to please keep dreaming of the Afghani hash that you were speaking of, as I know that I was. Is what it must have been like, and thank you for pointing that out and sharing that with us. And I have to maybe have you write a piece about it maybe one of these days for Skunk, just to share a little bit more about their traditions, because that tradition is so beautiful. And the fact that you got to experience that firsthand and then make your way to India and also your time there. I'd love for you to touch on that before we move on to your modern day work, but there's just so much richness in your story. And I knew that an hour wasn't going to be enough to cover it, but you can come back if you'd like, Nikki. I would love to have you back another time to talk further about the industry and everything that is going on with it, because you're such an important part of that as well. But can you take us a little bit more? You were right there in India, and I wanted to hear a bit more about your journey there.
Well, and actually, when you bring up the hash, maybe the story I should write for Skunk is about how I got busted in Afghanistan and spent a night in jail and a month getting through the process. So that's a long story that would take up the rest of the time here, but maybe we should talk about that in the future, because that's a fascinating story back then.
That sounds scary.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Would be. Yes, looking forward to that one. Yes.
Okay. No, it was actually one of those experiences that I don't regret at all, because, in retrospect, I got to do it. Just like all of this, all of the hard times in my life, I don't regret any of them. It's all adds to the person we are today. That's where we get the character we have as we grow older, right? So yes, India was really mind-opening.
That is such good medicine, let me just say what you just said. And I think that is a gift to any of our listeners tonight and to all of us that don't regret the shadow parts, don't regret the challenges, don't regret the mistakes, because that's the richness and the poetry of who we are. And I appreciate you saying that.
It's so true. Well, our many years later, when Swami or William at the time when I were living in India, because we did live there for much of the 1990s, and we found an incredible spiritual teacher we would not see him that often, but when we did, it would just be a few words. And one time I remember seeing him, and he simply said to me, he said a few other things, but what really got me, he just looked at me and he said, "Have no doubt." Just those 3 words. And I have to tell you, I go to those 3 words so often in my life when, trying to run a cannabis business. You can have a lot of doubts, believe me. But when I go to that, I realize, have no doubt, whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. It's going to be perfect in the way it is. And just, I've seen this in my life with things unravel, and that's how the whole story presents itself. So I just want to always share those words with people, those 3 simple words, have no doubt, very important. So yeah, India really did influence me quite a bit. And I also, I was in India that first time, and then when I came back, I actually stayed in San Francisco again for quite a while. It was another, it wasn't until 1986 that I went back again to India. So during that time, I was working at the San Francisco Chronicle, and I ended up discovering that I loved writing and being a journalist. And I was actually not doing very hardcore journalism. I was covering parties mostly and society, if you can believe it. But I do have that passion for parties, so that was always fun. But I learned a lot about writing.
A good party, let me just say.
Yeah, I do love doing it. So, and I learned a lot during that job, believe me. But it was great to be a journalist. I learned a lot. And one of the things that I learned that, that goes into the big mix that makes up our lives, so that when you get to be, 66 like I am now, you really see how all these pieces fit into play to make it how it's supposed to be, which is, at the Chronicle, I learned a lot about marketing. And I learned about what actually gets the press's attention and what people want to hear and how to present it. And that became very, very valuable in starting to run a business years later in my life at 60 years old when I started to run a business. I must be crazy. But all these things do come into play, And I also worked for television for a while. I worked for the NBC station in San Francisco for a couple of years. And that's kind of what got me up here to the Emerald Triangle, because I worked on a show called Bay Area Backroads that was all about getting in your car and driving out into the countryside around the Bay Area and finding unusual places. And I fell in love with Northern California at that point. I'd really far northern, and that's when I started to discover this area and realize, I think at some point I want to live up there. And by that point, Swami William and I were married. We had reconnected in that whole, hippie tradition. We just never lost our friendships, and we reconnected and realized there was a much deeper meaning there, and we had a real soul connection. And that's a whole other story. That's a whole other story in itself, that whole thing. But we've been married to each other 3 times, just to give you a hint, of kind of how that's gone. So we're on our 3rd marriage now, and he's, in the meantime, became Swami. So we went off together, and we spent a lot of time in India, like I said, starting in 86, and then for me through till about 96. I spent quite a majority of my time in India, and not only India, also China, and also Thailand, because I really wanted to compare these cultures and see how people lived and sorted it out in such different countries, the ones that have the most populations, India and China, but how they deal with it so differently. And I always found that very, very fascinating. And I also did a lot of writing at that point, a lot of freelance writing. And now I did get into heavier stuff than just throwing parties and writing about them. I was really studying a lot about the women, actually, in both of those cultures, both the Chinese and the Indian cultures, and how they were treated, and the negatives and the positives about being a woman in those cultures. And I just always found that incredibly fascinating. I come from a family of all girls, and I'm the youngest. And basically, if I had been born in India to a family like that, I might not have made it. They may not have kept me, because I would have just been another mouth to feed, another dowry to pay. So it was always really, really fascinating to me. And so I got very into writing when I was over there, and that helped my true journalism come out in me, I felt. And at a certain point in 1996, William and I were having an incredible life in India, where we had one house up in the Himalayas in a small town called Kosani, which was just magical, with views of 20,000 plus peaks all, from our garden, and it was just so beautiful and so peaceful, and really a very good place to go deep into your spirituality. And then that's where we were in the summer, and in the winters we had a house down in Goa. And of course that was a whole different thing, because Goa was all about the parties and the music and the psychedelic trance and and the expatriates. We're up in the mountains. We were the only foreigners up there a lot of the time. But down there, it was the whole expat community and the smugglers and that whole scene. So we really got to know how that went. I never became a smuggler from India. Smuggling was not my thing. I decided, getting busted that one time in Afghanistan in 1977, this was not my path, smuggling. It was just not going to work.
Was it not? So, you weren't going to be the Howard Marks, the female Howard Marks. No drug running.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, it was just.
But you were bringing consciousness.
Yes.
I kept thinking of,
when I was in California, I was dealing, but yeah, exactly. But so when I came back from India in 1996, something just kind of hit me, and it was literally a message from Shiva. I know that sounds pretty weird, but I went into a trance for about 3 days, and I didn't know what was happening. And the message that I got was he had to stay in the India path there, and that was for him to do. So at that point, I came back to America, and I brought with me, of course, every time I would come back from India or China or anywhere in the world, lots of statues. I always had this icon addiction, and I just really love sacred items from all different cultures, all kinds there are. And so I was building up this enormous collection that I had sent back over the years. And when I came back in 96, I realized that I got this great job at a place called the California Institute of Integral Studies, which is a graduate school in San Francisco where you can get degrees in things like psychedelic studies and Hinduism. So this was obviously the perfect place for me to be. And I got the perfect job because I was putting on the parties for them to help raise money. So it all started coming together. And at the same time, I realized I had to start putting on psychedelic trance parties in California, because I'd been a great student of it by going to so many of them in Goa. And California there was a psy trance community here, but it wasn't that big yet. And no one was really doing all night outside, weekend long, don't stop kind of parties. I mean, they had these things called raves, but that's a different thing. So this was 1996. So I came back in the few years I spent still living in the city. I realized, no, I really want to do these all night outside parties like we had in Goa. But where am I going to do them? And that's when I met my dear friend Michael Gosney, who said, I've got this friend named Tim Blake, and he's got a piece of land that he just got up in Mendocino County, and I think he'd like to have parties at it. So that's, again, a whole other story.
Oh, my God. Wow.
That's how I ended up in Mendocino County, and was putting on big psychedelic raves at what later became known as Area 101. When I first went there, it was a dump. I just have to say that it was a total dump. And Tim didn't quite know what to do with this place. And I said, I see what we can do with this place. And then the next thing I started bringing up to Mendocino was statues, because by now I would still go back to India at least once or twice a year to visit Swami, who had now become Swami, or I would just go back because I loved it. And I was now, my icon addiction had really grown. And by now I was sending back 1-ton stone statues that obviously I could not put in my apartment 3 stories up in San Francisco on the side of a hill. So Tim said I could put some there at his land. So my first 2 giant statues went to Area 101. There's a Ganesh at the gate and a beautiful, beautiful Shiva, a meditating Shiva inside the property. And we built a stage, and we put on some of the most awesome parties I've ever gone to up there, and really opened up the community in California to doing these kinds of things and creating a psychedelic trance community that became really strong and still continues in the Bay Area and all over California. But at the same time, I fell in love with Mendocino County. And Tim Blake really is the one that taught me a lot about growing. I mean, obviously I would buy weed in Mendo now and sell it in San Francisco because I never stopped being a dealer. But I now started to learn about actually growing outside. Also, some about growing indoors, because in those days people were so afraid of the law. It was really cracking down. They had a lot of outdoor farmers that had been growing under the trees for years realized that that wasn't safe and they were growing indoor. But I always realized the outdoor was what my more passion was. And I learned a lot about trimming and harvesting, and that's the part that I really appreciated the most. I wasn't much of a gardener myself, I have to admit. That's always been Swami's role. But I was the one that knew about the harvesting and the curing and the trimming and taking it to market. And so that's, all of our qualities always end up meshing as we see life continue right down the path. So we became dear friends with Tim Blake. Swami was then coming over to visit quite a bit, and we became when we finally sitting around a trimming table with Tim, at one point we started all talking about how imagine someday we could have a competition and actually have a cup, an emerald cup. And that's when that whole idea was conceived. And then we were very honored to be some of the very first judges that first year in 2003. And it made sense. I mean, we were learning a lot about local cannabis up here from the Emerald Triangle, and had been, because I'd been selling it in the city as well. So that was quite an eye-opener. And then in 2003, Swami and I finally decided, because we stayed best of friends. Swami and I always stayed best of friends through his becoming a Swami. Between you and me and everybody else that's listening, he was celibate for 20 years. That's part of the vow that he took as a Swami. And those were one of the times that we weren't married. And but we decided to get this piece of land up here, and we just we're so blessed again, so blessed. And our teacher in India told us at one point, I said to him, he said, "So what are you doing in America?" And I said, I'm putting on these parties and I'm doing these things and blah, blah, blah. I said, but my dream is to have a sanctuary where I can bring all of these statues that I want to be putting up and make sacred space. And he said, you go now. You go right now. You will find it. And he was 100% correct, because we had been looking for years, when I started that job back at, NBC and everything. And we came back and boom, it was put into our lap, one of the most beautiful places in our entire county. And I really don't just say that because I live here. It absolutely is. We have a very large flat meadow that most places up here are on the side of a hill. And we've got this beautiful, beautiful place. It's just, it's in the valley. It's its own little valley. It's its womb. So, I grew up looking at the Golden Gate Bridge and out at the ocean when I was a child. But yeah, and now I'm in the womb. I'm really in Gaia's hands, is what it feels like out here in this beautiful sanctuary. And so then I started sending the statues here, and realizing that Area 101 was becoming
Nikki,
the place for the big.
I'm jumping in. I'm sorry, because it is the delay is so silly, but I just have to say that just listening to your story is so deeply illuminating, because you see the landscape. When you were talking, I was writing about Neem Karoli Baba, because I also was in the yoga industry and studied many esoteric teachings the world over, and we're definitely kindred spirits in that way. And this idea, I think of Alan Watts's words and how he said, in the West, the great taboo isn't sex, it's God, the fact that we are God. And being also raised Catholic, it was interesting to then study many different esoteric traditions globally, from the different continents, and understand the common thread. And now to see this new landscape, that conscious events like Emerald Cup, these side trends, these events that emerge from what you were bringing over, and all of these kind of nodes crisscrossing and these convergences, it's just so powerful to hear your story. Thank you so much for sharing it, because it really is the convergence of many different important things that are pushing, this decades-long transformation that we want to see, from the importance for protecting our soils and waterways, the importance to keep your spirit happy through dance and through art and music and culture, rich culture that everybody's so thirsty for. And so, it's just amazing to see how the tapestry of your own journey was woven into all of these movements of consciousness. It's quite amazing.
It really, truly is a tapestry. That's so true. And just one little sidelight, our land where we lived in the Himalayas was very close to Neem Karoli Baba's ashram. So we definitely knew that area quite well. And so, yes, it is a tapestry. And it's something I just like to share with everybody, because this is not unique to me. We all weave our tapestries. And it's just the fact of sitting back and recognizing that you can be a mother in suburbia, and you've got a tapestry that created, from your childhood and made you what you are. And I mean, every single person does, really. And that's the karmic way that we go through living, I believe, is, doing what our path is, what our karmic path is. And if you stray from that, that's when you're not happy. That's when you're not feeling full. And when you feel happy and full, you know that you're on the right path. So I just always try to encourage people to look for that. And certainly things like cannabis and psychedelics help us recognize that 100%. I completely believe in that. Things like alcohol, maybe not so much, or things like not having a healthy diet or not respecting our planet. But when you get really in touch with the soil and with where we are and how much she gives to us, our planet, you really just want to make her happy, and it makes your own self happy. And it's like I studied a lot of Vipassana meditation as well. I really enjoy that tradition. And, it's a lot of it is just be happy, be happy. And just, it sounds so trite and so simple, just like have no doubt, but it's not. It's really the foundation of making a good life. And
absolutely.
It's not trite at all.
Truly.
It's absolutely, yeah. And just to really
about
go with
being
that.
in alignment.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's truly about following your heart. It really is. It's like, when I was a young 14-year-old, I still have my old journals from when I was like in 8th grade, freshman year in high school. And at that point I was writing about how, I just don't know. I could be a nun. I literally wrote this at one point. I said, I don't know if I want to be a nun or a hippie. I really seriously wrote that. And then within a matter of about 2 weeks, when I was 14 and a sophomore in high school, I smoked my first joint. About 3 weeks later, I took some mescaline, which was an amazing psychedelic back in the day. And let's just say I decided not to become a nun. It was like, it really opened up my eyes. And I still am a nun in some ways, because I do feel so spiritually connected. But it's just, I'm a different kind of nun. I'm a nun of my own calling, and I do believe that I can still be on a spiritual path.
I am a nun of my own calling as well, too, sister. I often joke with you that I'm a warrior nun. But I think that's what I really wanted to talk before you go, is that this awakening that we're seeing right now, there is another convergence happening. There's a second back to earth movement happening. There's the Renaissance is picking up heat. And look at psychedelics. Look at the way that everybody and their brother and sister and aunt and 80-year-old grandma are all microdosing on mushrooms. 10 years ago, I never would have thought that there would be this richness. And, they sung about it. When Jupiter is aligned with Mars, then peace will rule the planet. And that the Aquarian age has dawned. You know, you were there. You were in the hotbed of the beginnings of that in the 60s. But it's exciting, I feel, to see see it pick up heat in a different way in a time when maybe some people thought that the hippies had failed. Well, they haven't. And that actually consciousness is being seeded right now at levels and rates that I have never seen on the planet. And I think, wow, you know, this was the building of the bridge from the east to the west. This was the activation of the people through the plant medicines. You know, and you think about all of the different, like you said, it took millions to weave this tapestry. From the Beatles kicking it, to Ram Dass kicking it, to you guys, to everyone. And it's just, and it goes to show for those who have attended the Emerald Cup or who have interest to know the origin story, that it was just a beautiful conversation that Nikki was having with Tim Blake, and that it was a friendship that developed and birthed all these beautiful things, and that everyone is included in this ability to weave this tapestry together. We all are, right? And I appreciate you saying that, Nikki, very much.
No, that's absolutely true, and it's also, you know, kind of talking about the cup. There is, I'm so lucky that Tim is also a very spiritual person, as you know, and just the fact that, you know, the Emerald Cup, this is what makes the Emerald Cup unique, is that Tim lets me bring all my statues. I mean, we bring truckloads of statues to that event every year. And that is what makes it unique and have that sacredness about it. That is not just a bunch of people getting high unconsciously. It's, you know, we're going to do a meditation now. We're going to, you know, Namaste, all of these things that we've been able to do now at the Emerald Cup, and just having, you know, a 6-foot tall Shiva Nataraj, you know, standing there blessing everybody as they're checking out their weed. You know, it's a whole way to look at it. And the hippie culture has absolutely changed our world. There's no question about it. And you know, it's just from granola. I mean, come on. There wasn't granola before hippies, you know? I mean, there's like so many ways that you can look at it that have really come in to change things. And now I'm very excited about the new younger generation, the 20-somethings, the early 20-somethings, actually, the Greta Thunbergs, the people that are actually really taking into account that it's up to them to save this planet, because some people in our generation, my generation, have made a big mess of it, and there's no question about that, and I'm sorry about that. And, you know, we've done what we can, but we're not the majority at this point. But I believe that this next generation coming up can tip that, because it's in their hands, and it's for all of us to just become conscious of that. We have to make those changes right now. And, you know, the fact that, like you say, psychedelics are suddenly becoming almost mainstream, this could be the thing that tips it. It really could, because that opens up your mind to the connectedness of all of us, and not just us humans, but us with the other species on this planet, whether they're plants or whether animals, just to realize that all is one. All truly is one. And, you know, through meditation, through psychedelics, you realize these things, and that's what's going to bring us together so that we save our planet, we save our world. And it's just so important. And, you know, through cannabis, we can do that. That's one of the things I love about Swami Select, is that, you know, we're a lot more than just a company selling premium sun-grown cannabis. We're also an educational platform. And it's given Swami and me the opportunity to be able to talk about things like this. I mean, thank you, Julie and Al. I mean, how many people are going to let some old freak like me tell this crazy story that hopefully is going to influence a few people to follow their paths and listen to their hearts and what's the right thing to do for them, and really take this life seriously and realize that if you do it right, you're going to escape that cycle of rebirth. I do believe in reincarnation very strongly. And it's just an honor I mean, when I was a kid, I never thought I'd be able to do this, but listen to me, I'm able to share this information. We all are. What a joy, what a pleasure, and an honor, really. So thank you.
Well, it's great.
Yeah,
I think it's great to hear this side of things, the way your feelings are, and to hear, because of the fact that you were involved, as you said at the beginning of the show, born in the mid-50s in San Francisco, being involved in the hippie movement, and it's hearing directly from somebody that was involved in the movement that a lot of people only see about on TV or read about, and to hear directly from somebody who was right into that, I think it's great to hear.
No, well, thank you, Al. I mean, it is kind of odd as you get older and you realize that you are history. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, one of my nieces came up to me and said, "Oh, Nikki, can you help me? I have a term paper. We're studying about the hippies in high school." I'm like, "Oh my God, we're in history books already? Really?"
Yes. And people always go on about the economy, but I always look at it as, if we don't have an environment, we don't have life in order to have an economy, and environment should be number one.
Right. Absolutely. That is the major thing that's happening in the world. That's 100%. It gets back to the environment, and because the environment is what's going to feed all the people on this planet. There's so many of us that we have to. It's possible. It's absolutely possible. So, I pray for that every day, that we're going to find a solution, that people open up their eyes, people realize I'm just going to say it, they don't have to eat so much beef, because cows are really making them, the cows are a wonderful animal, but there are also too many of them on our planet right now. And that's one of the major problems. And so many other things that we're just doing unconsciously because that's how we were raised. It's nobody's fault, really.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just relearning. Yeah. I really feel strongly about that.
It's relearning. It's getting
the Google subscriber you called is not available.
Just so you know, Julie has dropped from the call, and I'm in the process of trying to get her back in here.
Okay.
It's just been one of those nights. You mentioned you're in the boonies. Julie, she's always on the go, and she says that she's not in the best spot. So, this happens, and I'm just waiting to see if she calls. Yeah, and I know that she wants to speak to you before you go here, because I know it's the top of the hour.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm doing my best to. Yeah, I'm doing my best.
Okay.
The Google
I'm trying.
Some mornings I wake up, Al, out here, because we live literally in the middle of nowhere out here in the hills of Mendocino County, and we have a satellite dish. That's how I'm talking to you, is over our own dish, because we obviously don't have cell reception or anything. And there's certain mornings that I wake up and I admit it, I almost pray that it's not going to work. And then I'm going to sit here and wonder, has the whole world gone down electronically? Yeah. Are we going to go back to what we used to be?
Right.
What's going to happen here,
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because, when you know what life was like before the internet, it was very different. It was a very different thing. And it was much more interconnectedness in a way that was more personal, and I felt way.
Yeah.
Although I do appreciate the fact we can talk across the world. I can talk to you in Ontario like this is wonderful.
Yes, exactly. Because I'm east of Toronto, here in Ontario, and being able to talk to you like this is fantastic. Whereas years ago, it would never have happened like that.
Right.
Just so you know, Julie, it's the same problem we had before the broadcast. That's why we were running a little bit late. It's ringing at my end, but it's not ringing at Julie's end. That's why every once in a while you hear the operator come in there. Her answering machine kicks in.
Huh.
And I know.
And we can't blame Mercury this time. That's always a good fallback, Mercury retrograde, but it has definitely gone direct.
Yeah.
But these things happen.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've heard that before in the past in some of our conversations. That damn Mercury.
Yeah, right. That often could be the problem, but not tonight. That's not the problem. It's just whatever it is, and everything's perfect. If things happen for the reason they're supposed to happen, it's no worries. And this is an attitude being in the cannabis business. I try to adapt it as much as I can because they're constantly throwing things in our face to make it as difficult as they can.
Oh, the regulations. The regulations and the controls that they're throwing in left and right, it's really crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's totally.
Some of the stuff that we talk about, like we do a show, the Reefer Reporters, on Mondays and Thursdays, and my co-host Reverend Kelly, we're always talking about the fact that down in the U.S. when they bring up cannabis legalization, they're always talking about something along the line of the equality and getting the areas that were affected by the war on drugs some type of assistance. Whereas here in Canada, we don't hear any of that from our federal government. Nothing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. No, it's a challenge in California. California is probably probably the most regulated place in the entire universe, actually. So, it's a challenge, but, we're actually really proud to still be in business and very sad about all of our friends and neighbors who haven't been able to make it. It's just not that easy for everybody. And again, that's where I say some of my background does come in handy, that I know about journalism, I know about marketing. It's helped tremendously. And also that meditation and peace of mind that lets you grin and bear it when they do another stupid thing and make you change the packaging one more time or something,
That's right.
There's always something.
Something. Exactly. Just so you know, I believe Julie is back with us. Julie.
Hi, guys. And it's all about acceptance, isn't it? As you said, have no doubt. Just put your trust into the divine, and just to trust that everything's going to work out, even through the greatest challenges and tests, which it seems like that's what you were sharing as I was coming on, is just find a way to find the treasure within the challenge, because the treasure's always there, 24/7.
Exactly. That's so true. And I'm glad you came back so I can say goodbye to you, Julie, and I hope I see you soon. And Al, I hope I get to meet you in person someday.
Well, I hope so. It'd be nice to get down there, and Julie could take me around in her RV and show me all these places and meet all the people that she introduces me to on the radio. It'd be a great time. I know that.
Oh, well, you would have a wonderful time.
Yes.
Oh, Nikki, and I hope you consider coming on again, and we could try it again with maybe hopefully less technical difficulties, because you are such a special guest, and I so appreciated having you on. And I know you got to run to an important meeting, but I want to tell you that I will come up and see you. I have some ideas I wanted to share with you about things that are coming up in the fall and winter. So I'm sending you lots of love, and please send our regards to Swami.
Yes.
And can you tell people where they can find you?
Yes, websites, all that type of information.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah, our website is very simple. It's www.swamiselect.com. Swami is SWAMI select.com. And we have lots of blogs and lots of educational stuff on there. So it's really not just about trying to sell our weed. I really want people to check it out to learn a whole lot about different things, both spiritual and practical about cannabis. So, really, that's what we enjoy doing. And Julie, I definitely look forward to your next visit. Please come back soon. And when you do next time, I'd love to be on your show, and maybe then I'll tell that whole story about Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds great. And I will send your regards to Sage And send our regards to Swami. We love you.
I will. Much love and peace to both of you. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for coming on. We really enjoyed the conversation and look forward to the next one. That's for sure.
Okay, me too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Julie, being that Nikki's got to leave, I know that you mentioned about having to split early as well because you're on the road early tomorrow. So we might as well wrap things up now. So would you like to do a shout-out at this moment?
Yes, and thank you so much to everyone listening in. I apologize that things were a little bit difficult technically today. But we will be back. Yes, we got through it. And, please check us out at skunkmagazine.com. We just brought out the summer issue. It's a very exciting issue. We're highlighting supernova women on the cover, women of color in cannabis. And we have many, many amazing stories of inspiring people, both Black cannabis community, Latino cannabis community, Native cannabis community, Asian cannabis community, LGBTQ, and we're going to keep on bringing out those stories to share them with everyone globally. And, it's just something that's so important. And the next issue coming up, which I can share with people, since those of us who braved through that show with the technical challenges, we are excited to announce that for the fall issue that we do have Santana on the cover.
Nice.
And it's going to be a wonderful issue devoted to Latinos in cannabis and highlighting various inspiring stories of people from all around the world in the Latino cannabis community, from Spain to Mexico to Colombia to different parts around the world. And for those of you who don't know, I am a Latina. My family is Cuban, and my family came from Cuba when my mother was 15. So this is something that I'm very excited about, Al.
I bet you are.
And so people just check in and check out the website and see what we got going on, and don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much, Al, for all that you do as well.
You're welcome. I have a question about the issue with Santana. When you get to the centerfold and you open it up, will there be a raging guitar solo or something going on in there? You know, one of those music things when you open it up and you get a guitar going along? No?
I wish. I think that would be pretty pricey.
It would be.
Well, in the pandemic, the cost of print has gone up.
Oh, I imagine it has.
Continues.
Oh, yeah.
It has, actually. It's been quite unfortunate. It's gone up, I think, maybe 5 times in the last year and a half.
Oh, that's no good.
And it's obviously incremental, but it is something that has definitely been concerning. And then, it's been something close to my heart to want to be able to eventually do hemp.
Yeah, which is going to be another added cost to it, but it'd be great to see it.
Well, yeah, we're hoping to keep driving the cost down, aren't we? So that's something that I'm always praying for, is can we find a way to keep driving the cost of hemp down so that, we can continue to see it transform other industries besides the cannabis industry and the hemp industry themselves.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. By having it out there, available for more and more people to get it, and not just as, clothing. There's all other options and things that hemp can be used for and to be made into that can be out there for people to purchase.
Right. So the fight continues, Al.
That's right. It sure does. I wear my hemp T-shirts.
Keep up the good fight.
Yeah. Now, just so everybody knows, Kim is scheduled to come back next week. She says that if her move isn't complete, she's hoping to go to somebody's location in order to broadcast from there. If that doesn't help, if that doesn't work, I'm sure I'll get a guest joint host like I did there a couple weeks ago, and who knows, maybe somebody from the network will jump in and join me on that night. just like when it happened there a couple of weeks ago.
Well, just let me know if you're
Loretta.
in a pinch, Al. I know I was joking about it.
No, it's good. It's good. All good. Loretta jumped in last time, and it's 4 weeks. 4 weeks you've been doing this, so that's good. Thank you for doing that as well. We really appreciate it. Covering for Kim. So, all right, you can find Pace on Twitter at Pace Radio. You can find the Pace Radio Show on Instagram as well as on Twitter. And you can find us at pace-online.ca. Thank you. Just go to our sponsors, legacy420.com, bmahydroponics.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop in downtown Campbellford, as well as Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions. That you can find them at drbuckcts.com. There's also a thank you to our guest, Nikki Lastreto of Swami Select, who had to leave early. And we hope to have her back, do we not, Julie? We've got to hear that story from being in the jails of Afghanistan.
Oh, please, yes. I would love to, and I'm going to have her, hopefully have her write that story as well. Yes. I agree with you, Al. I hope to have her on again. She is such a gorgeous woman. I definitely look up to her in the industry, and then I think that all women and men should, so... let's keep celebrating those that should be celebrated. And thanks again, Al.
No problem. You're welcome. All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. And as always, Julie, thank you for being there. Other than that, good night, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Good night.
You know I blame it on.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Do you want to hear what patients and cannabis advocates have to say? If so, then catch the Pace Radio Show Wednesday nights here on paceradio.net.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888. And grow on with CP.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Once again, People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada.ca. Check them out.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.